Joyce has come to present her Facejugs to us. Joyce is in the class of 1970. They have their big, she's with Stubbs. They have their big reunion this year. But while she was at TIFF, Joyce was like, just name it. She was there, okay? She was always a class officer. She was a CHIP her freshman year and was very, very active in WAA, especially the basketball teams and so forth. She was Sir Lancelot in Round Table. BSU was her other area of interest, and she served on BSU in the mission, Sunday school, a number of different positions there. She was a campus superlative. Again, she was just one of those people that you know when you leave, okay? And I'm just tickled to death that that she's joined us today for her Facejugs. So, Joyce Brown. Yay!
She gets y'all wound up and I have to come talk to you. Okay. Carol Welch got this started, but I could say no to Carol. But then she put the bug in Sheila's ear, and what do you do when Sheila calls? You can't say no, so here I am, but I thank you for the invitation. Y'all had some pretty impressive folks come your way. This is my first time. I don't like this microphone.
We won't be able to hear her.
She didn't need it.
Won't be able to hear me?
I'm about close, though.
How's that?
Now, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
If you can, I'll raise my hands.
Okay. Y'all had some pretty impressive and interesting TIFF girls sharing their expertise and their experiences. I think I heard that Carol Stubbs brought some cows up one day. I have some cows, but I decided not to bring the cows today. And I think somebody had some beehives. Was that the same day? And did y'all have any chickens? Chickens. There you go. Well, and y'all have also had Carol O'Neill up here. Our stand-up comedian, Carol O'Neill. She was supposed to be telling about her education experience, which she touched on, you know, between every other joke.
That's true.
And I'm gonna talk about Carol a little bit more in just a few minutes.
Oh, please do.
Okay, I will.
O'Neill.
Before I start with my folk pottery, and it's like I told Sheila, she may have to do this because I could talk about folk pottery and how I came about and about different potters for, you know, all afternoon. I won't do that to you because you may not be as interested in it as I am. But before I do, I want to talk a little bit about TIFF and how I wound up at TIFF and people who influenced me along the way. First of all, I grew up in Lakeland County, Cochran, Georgia, went all through school there, was very active. My parents joined First Baptist Church when I was about 6 or 8 weeks old. So First Baptist Church in Cochran was my home. Well, out in a little community called Cary, out in the county, there was somebody named Kathy Sapp, and she's Kathy Sapp, love it. She was just a little bit older than me, but I don't know how our paths crossed, but I do know at some point during my high school career, I believe it was my junior year, Kathy approached me and told me about TIFF College. She was at TIFF College and just was having a wonderful experience, and she was just such a fine Christian girl, and I don't know what interest she took in me, but I just thank God every day that she did, and I love Kathy to this day. Well, Middle Georgia College is in Cochran, and it would have been a whole lot easier for Joyce Brown to finish at Cochran High School and just go actually about 3 or 4 blocks. I could have walked to the college. Our house was sort of centrally located between the church and the college and the high school. And Mom and Daddy could have said, no, now you're going to do 2 years at Middle Georgia, and then if you still wanna go to TIFT, you can. But they agreed, with a little persuasion to let me go to Visitors Day. And I just fell in love with TIFT College, and Mom and Daddy agreed and supported me in every single way. Now, Daddy worked as a civilian at Warner Robins, and my mother was a seamstress at L&H Shirt Company. That shirt company in, Cochran was actually owned and run by 2 Jewish brothers out of New York. And they were just so good to their employees. And my mother, they made Lucky Boy shirts. And my mother was a seamstress, and she made collars. And my parents sacrificed for me to go to TIFT College. I pulled out my yesterday at TIFT book, and in it, I found from the business office of TIFT College, Mr. and Mrs. John M. Brown, 406 Peter Street, Cochran, Georgia. This was September 15th, 1969. It was the fall, probably late summer, before I went for my senior year. And it was their bill for the year, which totaled $1,255. Now, back in 1969, $1,255 was a lot of money for my parents. And actually, I have a brother that's much younger than me, so they had a younger child. And then my oldest brother was already out of the house. But the basic charges of 1/3 for that fall was $418. So, but I just thank my parents for their sacrifices so that I could go to TIFT College. Now, Mama told me one thing. She said, now we're gonna work, you can go to TIFT, and we will support you and love you through it, but you won't ever have a car. She said, we'll never be able for you to have a car. So this is where Carol O'Neill's story comes in. Fell in love with Carol O'Neill to start with. She was not my big sister, but she was in my big sister class, and I was involved in sports, as was Carol. So she became my unofficial big sister and has been ever since. And we just dearly loved each other along the way. Although during your working time, sometimes you lose track, but you always sort of come back and sort of reunite. Well, you know, when you first go to TIFT, or at least back in the 60s and 70s, late 60s to 70, that first quarter you had to stay on campus so long. I don't remember, Carol, how long it was. Maybe, it might have been 6 weeks. I don't remember, but we couldn't go home. And I remember being homesick and using the phone booth, and if you got a call, you jumped up, and, you know. But anyway, I didn't have a car, but Carol was from Warner Robins. Daddy worked at Warner Robins, and Carol did have an older car. So my ride to Middle Georgia was with Carol O'Neill. And if memory serves me correctly, they had not quite finished the interstate early. So we would take those back roads, and I'll never forget, I don't remember where Daddy met us, but I'll never forget, it was so good to see my daddy after being away from home. But I thank Carol for putting up with me. One more thing, another sacrifice. I didn't have a whole lot of spending money, you know, just didn't have spending money like kids do today. And I can remember we had these little hot cookers and things, tomato soup, cans of tomato soup, and saltine crackers. I'd always have a supply of those. I don't remember the name of the hotel down, it was up I-75 just a little bit, but they had a little restaurant in there. They had the best hamburger steaks you would ever want to put in your mouth. Every once in a while, somehow I would tuck back maybe a $5 bill. And it seems like it was on a Sunday night. Some of us, just a little small group of us, we'd plan it ahead of time, and we would go to that restaurant up there and have us a hamburger steak. We just thought we were really doing something. We could afford to do that. So,
It was a quality course, wasn't it?
Davis.
Yeah,
I believe it. There you go.
Quality in.
Yeah, that was a good rush.
It was always good to have.
All right, one last thing about Carol O'Neill, just so y'all can go back and tell her. She may have told this joke that day, but I'm sure you've forgotten it by now, so I'm gonna tell it again. This is by Carol O'Neill. She told me, and it's for Carol O'Neill today because I love her so much. Carol told a joke about a small town, and we'll just say it was Forsyth, Georgia, or Barnesville up the way. There were these two preachers, and they always rode their bicycles. They'd always meet up in the mornings out on their bicycles. Well, one morning, the two preachers were out. One of them was on his bicycle, and the other one was walking. And the one on the bicycle said, "Well, brother, where's your bicycle?" He said, "I don't know. I think somebody probably stole it." So the preacher on the bicycle said, "Well, that's terrible. Go back to your pulpit, plan you a sermon, and preach on the 10 Commandments. And maybe when you get to the one about thou shalt not steal, you know, if somebody in your congregation stole the bicycle, maybe they'll bring it back." He said, "Well, that's a good idea. I think I'll try it." A few days later, they were on the same path, and here comes the preacher that didn't have a bicycle, but he was back on his bicycle. So the other preacher said, "Well, did you preach the sermon I told you to preach about thou shalt not steal?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You must have because you got your bicycle back." He said, "Yeah, I did, but I never got to that one." He said, "When I got to the one about thou shalt not commit adultery, I remembered where I left my If that happened here in Forsyth, Georgia, I don't think it was our beloved Dr. I.W. Bowles. I don't think he rode a bicycle.
Jackson did.
All right, there's one other person I want to talk about, and that's our beloved Nancy Tribble. Tribble came after I did, so as far as our paths at Tift College, they never crossed until later. In the mid-70s, I was coaching high school at Dublin High School, and I was teaching health and PE at the junior high school. I don't remember who got in touch with me, how I found out, but a girl named Nancy Tribble needed somebody to do student teaching under. And they asked me if I would be her sponsoring teacher. And so I agreed to do that. So that's how I met Nancy Tribble. She came to Dublin. I don't remember where Nancy was living then. She drove that old Volkswagen that she had. Can't remember the name of the Volkswagen. She drove it for years. I was coaching basketball, and one of my seniors' parents had a basement apartment, the Thomases, and of course Nancy fell in love with them, but they offered, and she used their basement apartment while she was there doing her students teaching that quarter. We talked, I remember it like it was yesterday, in an unair-conditioned building near downtown Dublin. And we had the room, we'd teach health part of the day, and then we'd go to the gym and do PE. We just had the best time, but she was, if you knew Nancy Tribble, you know she was just a character and just so much fun. She would come in on 2 wheels on Monday morning, just flying by the seat of her pants, and I think, oh dear goodness gracious, what's going to be in store today? But she would always be prepared and have the best lesson. And then on Friday afternoon, she'd be in such a hurry to go wherever it was she was going, back to Atlanta or wherever. She would beg me to get out of bus duty, and I'd say, "No, Nancy, you're not leaving here early." But Nancy left us too early, and even years later, she would call, and I'd either answer the phone if I wasn't there. She would leave a joke or pretend to be somebody else on my answer machine, and I would just always love hearing from Nancy Tribble. She was a dear dear friend, and like I said, she left us too early, but she left me some good memories. But I mention all those just to say I've just been blessed by so many people along the way, and those are just a few, but my love for Tiff College just grows and grows, and I appreciate y'all and have really enjoyed getting to know some of y'all better. Now, the reason I'm here, not to tell any more stories about people, but I'm here to tell you about my love for folk art, for folk pottery, and just how it's just been a real passion for me. I haven't counted my collection lately, but somewhere between 275 and 300 pieces.
Carol is. I told Carol he's got about 300 of them.
Yeah. I should do a better job of having all of them inventory, but I don't. But I really have some I think some good pieces, but it's been so much fun along the way in collecting them, and I'll share with you some about some of the shows that I went to and just some fun folks I met along the way. I'm going to mention two people, and I'll come back a little bit more to those, but my first cousin, Ben Stevens, on my mother's side, he started collecting right before I did, and then when we hooked up, it was just downhill from there. we just had the best time going to different shows and collecting together. And then this is a Pulaski County, Hawkinsville person, Debbie Garner, who taught high school, I believe, but special ed in Hawkinsville, and she's a folk artist. Miss Things is her folk art name. She started, my collection started in the mid to late 90s. This thing started way back in the 80s, and she just has a fabulous collection. She has a beautiful older home in Hawkinsville and just has some fantastic cabinets that are built into the wall, and she has a lot of the older pieces of pottery that you just to die for. But she's a great friend, and she actually introduced me to some of the potters that I'll tell you about today. This is the pottery collection book, and I'll pass this around and let y'all look at it. Brothers in Clay. It is a total history of folk pottery going way back to the 1800s. I would take this book after I got it I'm gonna take this cover off, to all the shows that I would go to. It seems that I did a lot around in 2000. But I have most of the signatures of the people that I collect, although there are a lot that I don't. But I have, now I don't have Lanier's signature, but Lanier is the main guy. But as you pass this around and look at it, and I'll do that in a few minutes, you'll just see the great signatures that I have of the potters that I've collected. And I will pass that around in a few minutes. The four brothers, Lanier Metters, and that's Meaders, John Metters, Edwin Metters, and Reggie Metters. Now, this is older. These are not them. I should have explained this one first. This is Cheever. If you ever see a piece by Cheever or Airy Metters, please take time to look at it. If you ever are in a building somewhere, or because Airy was his wife, and she was Tiff College, Women's College. She was the first and the most significant woman potter, and she has some beautiful, beautiful stuff. And these are, now this is Casey, LQ, Cleater, Calder, and Wiley. Now, he was in the Civil War, right after that, really getting it started in White County, Cleveland, Georgia. That's where all these people are from. And then these are his sons. And then we get to, and I have to look back at my notes, Lanier, John, Edwin, and Reggie come into later pottery history, but all related and go back to this line of potters. Now, when they first started, it was for utilitarian purposes. That was back before factories were making glassware and dishware. They used it for utilitarian purposes. Canning, cooking, storing stuff in the winter, churning. That was the purpose during this era of pottery. Well, after the turn of the century in the early 1900s, when the factories came about, you can see how this use of pottery sort of went to the background, and they couldn't make a living with that anymore. So Lanier, the most famous of these four brothers that are descendants of these, he got the idea that let's add some faces. Let's do some pictures with some decoration. And it just took off. And then John, the brother, Edwin, and Reggie. Now, I'm gonna talk in a minute. Mildred Metters was John's wife, and I had a lot of contact with her. And Flossie was Reggie's wife. And those are two of the women who became more modern day women potters, and you'll see some of those. I want to talk about this picture. Edwin was a bachelor, older man when I met him. When I first retired in 2003, this was gifted to me by Pam Tuggle and Carol Welch. I have this is Edwin's signature rooster. I do have a blue rooster by Edwin, but I didn't bring my most expensive pieces today because I didn't want to pack them and haul them, because they're right pricey. But I did want you to see my beautiful picture that my TIF friends gave me when I retired in 2003. Now this is a print, but it was signed by Edwin in 2003. And his signature is in my book as well. So I do have, let me see, I may have one other piece by him that's a great vase piece. And then I have my blue rooster that's like this. The potters, it was in the 70s that the Smithsonian did a film about White County, North Georgia pottery. And so if you visit the Smithsonian, they will be there, and their film and some of their work, especially Airy and Cheever. Lanier, like I said, was the most famous. I have one Lanier jug because they are quite expensive. So, of course, I did not bring it today. But if you look up and study, and you could Google Facejugs by Lanier Metters to see what his work looks like. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm gonna start with a mug, and I have one of Robin's story. This is a mug by John Metters. Now, I never met John. He passed away before I got started. But Mildred is his wife. I had started collecting, I knew a little bit, enough to be dangerous. I was over in Warner Robins one day at that, I don't know the name of the antique, but it's a big antique mall that's back in a corner building at a shopping center on the end, toward the end of Watson. And I was rambling around, very back part of the store. The shelves were literally plastic shelves over, that had Mel Mac dinnerware, glasses, mug collections. My eyes went straight to these two beautiful wood-fired glazed mugs. I absolutely could not believe it. I almost fell into the shelf. John Metters, Cleveland, Georgia. There were two of them. I got them for $5 a piece. They had no idea what they had. Every antique store I've been in ever since. You look, and ladies, I'm telling you, look. If you don't want it, get it, and I'll buy it from you. Check it out. This was, I mean, just a treasure, and you don't come by that very often, but I have two of these, and I do use these and drink out of them. John Metters, wood-fired. Let me talk to you just a minute about wood-fired now. Wood-fired, the green glaze is very popular, but wood-fired is very rough looking. I've been to some wood-firing kilns. I went to David Metters, and I want to talk about him in a few minutes. And you talking about hot. I went to David's one day, and he had actually it's his dad's kiln going, and you talking about heat. I think that's something kind of like what hell might be like. Hot, but it takes some heat to fire these. Now, a lot of potters use electric, and I guess they could use a gas kiln, but electric kiln, the bottom, and it's just not as rough. You can tell the difference. Sometimes it's not as thick, so. Let's see what else you got here. All right. I love devil jugs. I love devil jugs.
Lord, that looks familiar.
I've got quite a few devil jugs. This is where the glaze runs. They use, and this is another John Metters piece. I actually forgot, I had this on the top of the shelf and I forgot I had it. Let me see. Yeah, he had something written on this one. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. This is not John, this is Reggie. Reggie, another brother. Reggie and Flossie.
Do they sign the bottom or somewhere on the piece?
This is on, they do it differently. He does his most of the time on the piece, but John's was on the bottom. Sometimes they do it on both. All right, here's Flossie. Flossie I did meet both of them. Flossie is Reggie's wife. This is what she calls her kids piece.
Oh.
And I think it's just so sweet that she did hers on the side. Flossie Metters, Kids, 2001. And theirs is wood-fired, always was wood-fired. Of course, all the brothers are gone now. Let me see who this is. Let's save that one.
Do they have children or anybody that's carrying it on?
They, some of them do, but a lot of them have gone on. David, let's see. Maybe that's Flossie. Okay. David Metters was the son of Reggie and Flossie. He's my all-time favorite, just my all-time favorite. His wife was Anita, so David and Anita Metters, they live in Cleveland, out from Cleveland. I have I also ran across not only my bill from Gibb College, but in one of my books, I ran across 4 pictures. 2 of them, and I'm gonna pass those around so y'all can see them, I promise. 2 of them are of David and Anita at their place out in White County. And then 2 of them, one of them is at Lanier's old home place, his old house, all grown up with bushes. And his grown up kill next door. And I believe Debbie, Miss Thang, and I were up there that day, and she took my picture. You can see me inside the kill. And I didn't bring them today, but I've got about 5 or 6 broken pieces that I picked up that day of old pieces of pottery that broke off in his kill. So that was a lot of fun on that trip that day, and that's the day that she took me, and we found Edwin in his shop. He would hang out in his shop. He was getting older then, but we went by and met him. I love my great pieces. This is Anita, David's wife, and David was son of Flossie and Reggie. Anita was so shy. She was just like, Tift College would have been wonderful for Anita Metters to bring her out. She was just backwards, sort of withdrawn. She wouldn't look at you much, and you'll see her picture. They lived in a single wide trailer just way out from downtown Cleveland. They always had big dogs, and we went out there one day, and they had a hog wire fence with posts around their trailer to keep the dogs in, I guess, and then David's kill was over here. And they would have broken pieces of pottery, the top parts of the pottery, and some of them were devil jugs or whatever, hanging on those fence posts. It was almost like something out of Deliverance. David always had a beard. Both of them, she was just phenomenal. A lot of the pieces, they worked together. Most of the time, he would do the pot, and she would do the grapes, or the decorative part, or she might do the face. If they collaborated on a piece, both of their names would be on it. But if they didn't, just hers. She rarely dated her stuff. This one's not dated, but I love her grape. I have 2 canister sets by Anita. One's a 4-piece set and one's a 5-piece set. I'm not real sure there are many people that can say they have 2 canister sets by Anita. She died of cancer, and then David lived probably about 5 years after Anita, and cancer got him. But I just love them. Let's see. This is my Anita great picture. All wood fired, and there again.
Just moonshine. It's a moonshine.
It's Reggie's moonshine. Is Reggie the one that had the moonshine? You remember going out that little shed and he said, "Don't touch that, that's my moonshine." I'm like, "You don't have to worry about that." He did, he was like,
I love my grape, but you can see a little bit different color in here. But she almost always did green glazes.
Joyce got me the unveiling.
I didn't bring any of David's big pieces, but I have a lot of his devil jugs and pictures. I've got one that looks like a bottle. It's got a bottle nose. But this is one of David's little devil jugs, and this one's a little shinier, but it's still wood fired. It's got that rough bottom. I guess I'll let y'all pass this one.
I'm touching it.
So were these
Don't blow
made in
into
the
it.
2000s?
Well, I don't know. Some of them may have been a little earlier. All right, here's to answer your question. We used to go to Hickory, North Carolina, to the Catawba Valley show. Now, that was mainly North Carolina and South Carolina.
Yeah, no, be careful.
Yeah.
Doors are watching all close.
I know, I'm
Catawba Valley, and it was always in March, you get an invitation, just a fantastic show, but it was mostly North Carolina and South Carolina potters. But this was another prize that was a find. This is an Anita Metters face jug.
Oh.
She made it September the 16th, 1988.
Wow.
See how primitive it looks and how her stuff sort of evolved? Well, accidents happen in the kill. Now, when you first look at this, you might think, well, somebody broke the ear off. No, see, it's glazed over. It happened in the kill after she put it in there. Somehow the ear fell off. But I don't know what year I bought this, but I didn't pay but $45 for it.
Oh.
Another really, really great find. And some small vendor just had this sort of stuff back on a shelf. I think it really shows how her stuff evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cleaner and Billy Metters come, are connected.
Ooh.
Now, this is called a buggy jug. I've got several buggy jugs. This one actually sits up a little higher. Some of them are wider and flatter. But this is a
Don't look, don't look.
Y'all did that on purpose.
I touched her.
That's it for
This is Cleaner and Billy Metters that are related to Clear on down the line, but now they lived in Centerville, Georgia.
Oh.
But they're,
And they went to Trinity United Methodist Church.
that's right, exactly.
wow.
I Googled his obituary and looked again. This piece was 1989, so, but I came by it sometimes in the 90s. Now, this is a true spit glaze. You can see the drip.
What does that mean?
He actually, where it's dripping down, it's like you spit tobacco juice,
Okay.
and it drips down.
Just may have been used for that.
But, he had another career, and I think he started potting a little bit later, and then they did quite well with it. So I was
But
glad.
he was in the same family.
Yes,
These other
yes.
matters.
She's still living, I sent homebound cards to her.
Oh, do you?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Small one.
Your rooster.
Oh my God.
Your rooster.
I actually, all these were wrapped in, bubble wrap, except this one, I had all kind of dish towels over it. I had everything packed up and in my car yesterday afternoon, and I looked around on the kitchen counter and remembered I was gonna bring this one. Now this is Ruby Metters, who, I can't remember if Ruby was married to a Metters or if she was actually a Metters cousin. But, Ruby was just always so gracious, and we would go to a Mossy Creek Festival, and it was out from Mossy Creek. I think there's actually a Mossy Creek Methodist Church where a lot of the potters are buried up there. But that was the most fun. It was under a covered, outside big covered pavilion, and they would be set up all around. And a lot of the Metters ladies would be over here on this right-hand side, and a lot of different folks, but I love my little blue rooster.
Oh, no. Does he have a name?
2006. No, would y'all like to name it?
Bessie.
There you go.
Bessie the Blue Rooster.
That's right. All right, Bessie.
Or chicken.
That's like when Miss
Bessie
T had her
Matters.
name her daughter Bessie.
Roosters, right.
I can't name her that, it's named the cow. Bessie, Tim's granddaughter.
right there at Mossy Creek, beside
I know
the
Jessie.
was Jessie.
Oh, that's
Let me tell you about her Christmas pictures. Miss Thing, Debbie Garner, folk artist, she started collecting, Jessie's pictures when she first started making them, and she would always number them. This particular year, this was number 33. She always had the same design, but Debbie had so many, and then she started, if I couldn't go, she would get me one. I think I have 6 of Jessie's, and every year it would be a different theme. Some of them are blue with a stocking, some of them are green with different stuff, but I like my pictures, and of course I display them at Christmas.
Is that,
I know,
what was
it's
her
like
name
a-
now?
Jessie.
Did that?
I think Jessie and Ruby were sister-in-laws, but they were both just, and I went out to Jessie's house one day to get one of mine. Just sweet, gracious people.
They don't have any idea how fabulous they do, see stuff, do they? All of them probably don't realize.
All right, changing families just a little bit, I gotta get on. I thought she was gonna steal these from me this morning. Sheila, Sheila said, oh, I'm gonna wear those.
We gotta watch her. We gotta watch her.
All right,
Slick.
this is, 2001, and, this is, Dwayne Crocker. Dwayne Crocker and Michael are brothers, and they did these little whimsical faces. This one's more of a brown glaze. And then, this is Dwayne. Both of them are Dwayne Crocker, and this one's got a little bit of a blue-green to it. But sometimes on some special occasion, I might put it on and wear it. But just,
Wear
I've
it
got
daily.
some really, I didn't bring any of my real tiny pieces, but in one of my cabinets, I've got just a whole shelf of nothing but, I mean, really, really small pieces, and you wonder how their hands can do it. But
Where the Crockers
It's like
from?
you're doing cross stitch when you're younger.
they're from Gillsville,
Hills.
Gillsville, up in that area.
Hillsville, yeah. It's near Cleveland, up there. They live out.
All right, Steve Turpin from the same, Steve actually is, I think, from Banks County, but he's, is always at these shows. And this was again in 2001. This is Nosy. This is my face mug. He did me a set of these, two brown and 2 gold. I love my face mug.
Look at his nose.
But, see the bottom, this is electric kiln. It's not fluff, see, it's real shiny. See the difference? Now, I love Pat Shields and Janice Hall, husband and wife. They actually live in Danielsville, up near Athens. I love their pieces. Let's see if I can find that piece. This is one of their face mugs, and it's just got halls, so they probably collaborated on that.
Look at the ears.
Now, I drink out of that one a lot.
That scared me. Yeah, it's not big enough coffee, is it?
And this is, Janice and Pat, and she's got Danielsville written on here, and she actually put the zip code of Danielsville. But they make some really pretty little grape pieces. I love my grape vases.
Kind of be like
That's
Nita.
it, shiny, smooth, yeah. They didn't do much wood-fired stuff.
So much with the- Yeah, yeah, saw it.
There's a shop in Greensboro called, Genuine Georgia, and they used to carry a lot of their pieces,
Here, Crawford.
but they've stopped stopped potting
That's
now,
where her farm
and
is.
so they just can't get them anymore, so they're doing some newer potters.
Oh.
If we ever have lunch up around Greensboro, we can go
Let's
to
do
the
it.
Ooh.
Greensboro Antique, and
Road trip.
we can go to Genuine, Georgia.
Hey, let's go.
Is that near the Yesterday Cafe? Is that near the?
It is, it is.
Oh, my goodness.
That's where
I know,
Crosby.
I know that person.
Book it, Dana.
Cousin from the cousin.
All right, this is a piece from the, Catawba Valley, and this is North Carolina.
Are you saying Catawba, like the
Catawba,
border?
Catawba Valley, and Hickory, North Carolina.
Well, that's good
Are
fish,
near
baby.
that. This is a I love Sandy Cole. She does great characters. She just,
Love
and it's full of personality. Their hair is always like that.
That's hilarious.
Now, this is a 1999 piece, so I've had it for a while.
Got pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Don't give it to Susie.
I think Susie and I both.
I'm gonna get this piece home and the horn's gonna fall off.
I'm not touching it.
I love this piece.
Oh.
Now, is that just my personality
Oh,
plus?
goodness, it looks like a gourd, doesn't it?
It's like, look at those ears. It's a comb, remember Saturday Night Live? Comb head?
Oh, yeah, the comb head.
You can't, you didn't take this anywhere.
Michael and Melvin Crocker, and they're still up, they're Gillsville, up in that area. Brothers, they collaborated. Their pieces are sky high now. They don't work together much anymore. I think they had a little bit of a falling out, but and they still pot separately.
Give us a estimate of what you call sky high.
Ooh.
Like, something like that, what would it be now?
Remember, we used to tell you, Joyce, we're gonna sell all your milk jugs, we could buy a house at St. Simon. That's
Are
great.
you talking hundreds?
Yeah, this piece would be, yes,
Of which
because it's
kind?
unusual.
Your blue
No,
rooster.
Probably.
Your
Oh,
blue
yeah, blue
roosters,
roosters,
thousands,
yeah.
thousands,
Not this one, no, that one.
thousands.
And my Lanier piece.
Guess you didn't
And that's
bring-
back, not that I have any money now, but I really didn't have any.
I can see why you don't have any now.
Yeah, you got it at a good time though, before it got.
Yeah, see, these potters are gone now, there will not be any more, so,
Especially that blue rooster.
and like I go in, and these are new and upcoming potters, I go, of course, there are always more in shops and all, but I go in Genuine, Georgia, and it's like, it's unreal, you know, a little mug that's not even wood fired and not near the detail, $75, you know, for just a little mug.
I'll hold her down, I'll take them.
Oh.
Here's another, now this is good and evil.
Oh,
Good, good,
upside down.
and evil.
Oh, that's
Oh, my word.
Let's see, where is it on here? He's got his on the bottom. This is Steve Turpin.
Look at the drill. Yeah, look at the.
Look at that.
Look at that.
And he's got on here, good and evil. This is,
That's funny.
2000 or 2008. But this is Steve Turpin. I like Steve. He's the
He's
one,
a
he's the one that did the
wonderful
little face mugs.
That's amazing.
Your nieces and nephews love all of these, they're gonna get them when something comes to you.
My niece's husband loves them.
Okay.
I've been picking a piece, for about the last 6-7 years, I've picked a piece out of my collection and given him, but I'm done. They're gonna have to wait now, because I have such a hard time
Wait a
deciding.
long time.
I can't part with them.
You
always will, it's a chick girl. We need one for chick collection.
I was gonna say, wasn't a beautiful, great piece, just be fabulous in here?
Tell us.
All right, I have a story. I'm not following my notes at all.
You don't. Oh.
I have a story on this one.
Look at the
Actually,
color.
2 stories. We used to go to Folk Fest up off of Jimmy Carter Boulevard. Every August, we'd go to Folk Fest. I'm gonna say this.
Howard Fenster.
The year
I wanna go there.
I had, had Mildred and Jesse and some of those to make me some pieces to resell.
Mm.
And I actually got a booth at Folk Fest, and it was a big to-do. You go on Friday night, and we had been going for years. Go on Friday night, vendors just filled this huge building. The potters would come, and that's where I got a lot of my signatures, because these vendors did business with them, and they would sell their stuff at Folk Fest. And of course, there were folk artists. This thing is on page 34. This is a book from 2001 Folk Fest.
Oh my God.
Here's Hawkinsville, Miss Thing, and some of her folk art stuff. Y'all
We'll pass it.
pass
It's
that
on the
around.
left. That's Miss Stein. It's T-H-A.
No, they finally stopped.
They stopped doing it. It got so.
There was a folk artist next to Miss Thing, named Big Chief. My daddy passed away on August the 11th, and this folk fest was toward the end of August. And I had paid to have my booth and have my pottery. And Mama said, Joyce, go on and go. So I did, and had my booth. And I was sharing with Big Chief, big American Indian guy that did folk art. He was right next to Miss Thing. He was just so personable, a fine Christian guy. And I was sharing with him about losing my dad, and told him a little bit about my daddy. He gave me this piece, and this is what he wrote on the back. You would thought he knew my daddy. Thank you, men. Thank you, Lord, for men like Brother John along this way here on earth. The man you could always count on. A great father, husband, and a man who you could see you in. God bless you, Big Chief. And my daddy was a wonderful Christian man. And so I cherish this piece by Big Chief, and especially what he wrote on the back. That I needed that weekend. Then I had ordered, or maybe bid on eBay for this piece. It is, let me see. I can't even read the guy's name. Oh, Joe Owen. This is out of Vail, North Carolina. 3:43 p.m. 5/24/201. If I can find my fork, I'll be a lucky devil. I think I won this piece on eBay. Either that or I had ordered it from somebody, and it wouldn't come. Every day I'd go home from the hospital, sit with Daddy and see, and it wouldn't come. My daddy passed away right after midnight on August the 11th, and the next day this was sitting on my front porch.
Wow.
Not about a devil jug or this or whatever, but just the fact that I had been waiting on it and it came that day.
I love the color on it.
Yeah.
That's different.
These are just a few other, now this thing,
Miss Stein.
she does, the dog was here first, or the cat was here first.
We got the cat. We have the cat.
And she actually, had written on the back about one of my little dogs, Michaela.
Oh.
She always used, rabies tag on these.
That wood?
She's real whimsical.
Very.
I've got an Elvis.
And then, yeah,
Oh.
she did a lot of musical, and this is what her chicken.
Oh, wow.
You bring any bevo?
I think that might be one right there. But this is about a chicken snake and some writing all around about the chicken snake, the hog, and
She got that. Howard Fenster used to write like this.
This is, Marie Elam,
Paradise
just a little
Garden.
piece.
Oh, that's beautiful. And who did that one?
Marie Elam. This is a Vivo piece.
There's a Vivo.
Yeah, we like Vivo at folk art.
He uses tractor paint, so it's real bright. It's weird, it's real thick. Thick, yeah. Big cheese.
Then you can pass my book around and look at some of the signatures.
I
Look
remember
for,
when you got 'em.
look for Edwin and.
She carried this thing around, she's like, there's somebody. I'm like, Lord help. Ooh.
I love Brian Wilson. Brian actually, he was a potter turned school teacher. Nice looking guy,
Oh,
the
that's
prettiest blue eyes, but I love my bird. Now, this is
Oh,
true wood fired, spit blaze.
I love it spit.
I know.
This
Is
was,
he from up around there too?
He was,
That's cute, that's what
What's
Carol
on
did.
that?
Brian Wilson.
Wilson.
Now, Brian still pots, so if you ever see anything about, he liked to do birds. He does a lot of
I'll say something. 20 years ago.
He also does a lot of loves. I got my niece a Georgia love that he made one time. Okay. Any of you ever heard of Marie Rogers? Marie Rogers? Right over here, out from Barnesville is where Marie's from. Of course, she's gone now, but, I went over to her place. I bought these somewhere. She's famous for her little pigs. Keep an eye out for Marie Rogers and the little pigs. I have a pretty good collection of pigs, different colors and all, red, blacks, and whites, different browns, but Marie did pretty primitive work. And of course hers, as you can tell, and this is what she says on here, this is what I was gonna share with y'all. Saved by the blood.
Oh, we could break out in song.
I like
Can't
that.
think of it. Baptist, some Baptist song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Saved
in
saved
the
by the blood
blood.
of the crucified one.
There's wonderful power in the blood.
Or conventions.
That Baptist never goes away, does it?
Yeah.
Bet y'all make
It comes
it.
out every now and then.
Now we're all gonna sing that.
I got one more story, then I'm gonna wind it up. Going back to my cousin Ben, that, we had the best time. He was from Greene County, grew up in Greene County, a little town out Greensboro, Union Point, Woodville. Well, I would come up at that time to my mama's farm place, and he would be at his mother's place in Woodville, and we would get up. I would have to be over there at his place about 5 o'clock, and we would head to a show called Turning and Burning, and the Hewells put it on. I thought I brought a couple of pieces of Hewells.
There's a piece you didn't show us.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
maybe
Ooh, y'all want.
We're not touching it.
I forgot
I'm
about
not
that.
passing it to her.
No,
Yeah, I'm not touching
this is another Mildred piece. I didn't bring a Hewell piece, I thought I'd put one of hers in. This is another, Mildred Metters piece. But see, I didn't pay but $40 for this piece, I still got the price tag on it. But now Mildred's gone, so a small piece like this, they would be asking more for it now. But going back to I sure thought I brought a Hewell piece, but they did, their glaze was like this, most of the Hewells. Chester was the main man, kind of a big man. He had a black long beard, and he wore a black hat, like a cowboy hat, big hat. But my cousin and I would get up before daylight, because we had to be there before daylight. But all these vendors, 75% of them Huels that ran this show, you would get there, find your parking place, have your flashlight. Of course, it was like in October, so it ought to be cool up there. And you could use your flashlight and go around to Grace Nell was Chester's wife, and she would do a lot of pottery and different relatives. But you could go and scope out ones you might want. They'd have now we're talking about crowds of people, because it was like a festival. It wasn't just pottery, blacksmiths and people selling their jams and sewing and that kind of thing. Just a big festival in October. He would have a huge fire in a barrel, and he would have his Bible. But the rule, and I don't know how we learned the rule, but you learn the rule real quick. He was going to do his devotion and his prayer. Now you could pick out a piece and have your flashlight and even have your hand on it. But the rule was, you did not swap any money or buy pottery until he had had his devotion and said his prayer and blessed the day. But those were lots and lots of fun up at Gillsville when we would go to those shows. And that was called Turning and Burning. And that's my cousin and I had a lot of fun going to Turning and Burning. So the shows were Folk Fest, Turning and Burning, Mossy Creek, and Catawba Valley. And I think I mentioned all those. Catawba Valley would always be around March, around my birthday, so I enjoyed going for my birthday and enjoyed that show a lot. Any other questions about the pottery? Y'all are welcome to come look and touch. I promise you I don't care.
We're gonna enjoy it in the car.
Do they still have any of these folk fests anywhere in Georgia?
No, they don't have Folk Fest now. They do still have I left out about the Huels. Huels are another family set around Gillsville. In Gillsville, there's a long, probably as long as this building, of old storefronts. And they do still every fall, some of the potters that are still like Steve Turpin and Michael Crocker and Melvin or Michael Crocker still set up and in the same, those storefronts inhabit. Then in that same community are the Huels down on the Huel property, and you have to drive their places with their kilns and all sort of down in a low spot. But a lot of the different Huel families set up down there. It's just a lot of fun because you can go spend time, but they don't have Turning and Burning anymore. They don't have Folk Fest. They don't have Mossy Creek because so many of the potters have died out.
It got so expensive to rent that hall off of Jimmy Carter. Remember Indian Trail?
Right,
It just
right.
got real expensive to rent that.
And
Well,
they
I
started.
wonder what were their inspiration for those faces, you know what I mean? Because the, Netters, is that right, who did it first, I would love to know what inspired them to make that face, because other people came after them and made the same faces. Did they have copyright patent on it, or?
No.
Why that face, you know?
Right, because so many, I sort of look at it and sometimes I don't appreciate my collection enough. Like this took me to a couple of my closed-in cabinets that I hadn't looked at lately, but they just to me, they're like personalities. That's sort of what, people, everybody's face is different, personalities are different. And I know y'all think, well, she's weird talking about, but
No.
to me, And then the beauty of the great pieces, but that's a good point, but I think each potter had their own vision of, and a lot of it's sort of, some weird stuff, and it's kinda like, you think maybe he might have a few snakes in his head.
You're drinking some of that moonshine.
Yeah,
Yeah, is that what made him so creative, was the moonshine?
Joyce.
Oh, I gotta show y'all the pictures.
Have you heard of the Georgia Jug Festival in Roberta?
I have,
My
mayor's
former son-in-law's family, Beecham,
I've heard of them,
B-E-C-H-A-M.
yeah. And they still do that?
Yeah, and got stuff at the Smithsonian, like you were talking about somebody over there. Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly, I think I went to Roberta one time way back, but I was always focused on North Georgia more so.
Yeah.
And that was right there under me.
Yeah.
I did wanna pass these pictures around before I do my closing, and I promise y'all I'll be through.
You're good, you're good.
Sheila said, I'll never ask her back.
No,
All right,
it's been great.
All right, this is my man, and I'm gonna pass him around, but he aged and was so thin in his last years. This was when I first started.
Was that out in that trailer?
It was, and then here he is with Anita. Y'all keep in mind now, these are my two favorites. She was. And then this is me in Lanier's Hill, and I actually found some broken pieces of pottery that day. And then this is Lanier's old house.
And they just let it go?
Yep, they just let it go.
Joyce, I remember somebody telling us, I think, when they started putting the faces on it, was a long time ago, they put poisonous stuff in the jugs, and that would keep kids from not going near the jug.
And
Something.
two, another
I don't
thing,
know if that's
Sheila,
true.
yeah, and another thing too, sometimes they'd put them out on grave sites, just to kind of keep the spirits away or whatever.
One more time, maybe tell me, what was your first piece that you brought, that you bought?
It got you hooked.
I'll tell you what it was, cause I looked at it yesterday and almost brought it. A lady in Cochran that was in my mother's Sunday school class, and I never really talked to her enough to know. She had some of Grace Nell Hewell's that I was talking about. Some of her, she had some small Facejugs and 2 or 3 pigs. And I had gotten interested, but I don't think I had bought any. And she sold me 3 or 4 of her pieces. She was downsizing. Those were the very first ones I bought, cause I looked at them yesterday and remembered that. So, and then, like I said, it was downhill. When my cousin, I got started and then when I saw Debbie's collection too.
And your most expensive piece is the Blue Rooster.
The Blue Rooster and the Lanier.
Lanier. How much was that Blue Rooster? I'm sorry,
All right,
I
Lucy.
think it's interesting to see how much it's going for. About.
Never mind.
Yeah, maybe 1,400 maybe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Remember, he was one that kept it in his trunk. Remember, he
Yeah,
had
oh
it in
yeah,
his trunk?
yeah, he'd hide them in his trunk. He was,
Woo, he was out there.
he also had some grandchildren who took advantage of him. Now, I don't know, but, he lived sort of a solitary life.
This is one of the matters.
Yeah,
Plus the art galleries, remember those people would show up and want his roosters for nothing?
Yeah.
That's why he hid them in the trunk of his car.
yeah.
Did he bury them in the
Oh, yeah, buried
stream
him
or something?
Yeah, in the water.
Several times, and he just,
Yeah.
he was always so afraid.
Another lifetime.
That's another
Brown
world
Img
out
still
there.
I don't know, a guess for my Blue Rooster,
Another world.
and
It's beautiful.
about 1,400.
Yeah.
How long did it take them to actually do like an average size piece of pottery? How long from start to finish did it take them? But you're paying for the effort, in addition to the art.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, they'd have to do so much and then let it set and then get the kiln ready. And so I'd say 2 to 3 weeks probably.
On one
And
piece.
all the turning and all.
Amazing. My Bible class teacher talked about the potter the other day, and she went through all the processes of how the potter worked and how it related to God and in our lives. And it was just amazing, just the things she said.
Here,
The potter
two
worked
other
through.
contrasts too, talking about the, wood fired and the kiln. Early on, up in those areas, they would go to the creeks and actually dig the clay.
Yeah.
And there is a younger now, well, he was back then, he's gotten older now, but Clint Alderman was self-taught, a younger man then. But he went back to the old way of doing it. He would go to those creeks up there and actually dig his clay and do it from the start. He had a wood-fired kiln. Later on, even some of these potters didn't do that. Even Edwin, you know, they would order the clay, but then they would wood fire it.
It was like red Georgia clay
Yeah.
and sun-dried.
Yeah.
I know a lot of clay comes from Crawford County.
Yeah.
I worked for a builder, and we were building a house
Joyce,
at the
got a
Indian
question.
Springs, campground, the Indian Springs campground where they have the meetings every summer. And we're building a house for this guy from Virginia there, and they dug the foundation, and it was clay under there. I'd never seen real clay under the ground
And
before
that's
then.
all.
It was gray.
Yeah.
It was amazing. They had to do special stuff, you know, for the foundation and stuff like that.
And hold your question 1 second. Going back to what, talking about taking advantage of this, Clint Alderman, and I think he was smarter than this, but I remember at Folk Fest, he was just really getting off the ground and he was doing all that hard work of digging his own clay and all. But some business guy would come in with him at Folk Fest with a black briefcase. And he would follow Clint around. I don't know if he called himself Clint's agent or what, but I often wondered if, but I think Clint was smart enough not to let that guy take advantage of him, but I often wondered what he was doing and if he was taking advantage of that young man.
Cause these are mountain, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the guy.
You have a beautiful collection,
That's funny.
and you have so much. Do you display part of it, store part of it, or do you have it all out somewhere? What do you?
It's all over the house.
I've got, one really big open cabinet that's got a lot on it. I've got 2 kind of big closed-in cabinets that were actually, I've got these at Folk Fest from a woman who had a booth. Her husband would make these cabinets out of old windows from old houses. So I've got 2 cabinets that I've got them in, shelves, and I hate to say this, but I picked the last one for my niece's husband. I have a new storage shed at my farm because I didn't have room to put everything, and I've got shelves in there that I've got some pottery on outside. But I just don't have another place, plus.
Field trip.
So who does all these things?
And then Tina, my friend, the housemate down at St. Simon's, when she remodeled the house down there, she put some beautiful shelves, and some of my better pieces are down there, but she knows they're mine. And my nieces both, I don't know if they appreciate it as much as I do, but.
Joyce, I'd be scared somebody to steal it if you got it at the farm, you know what I mean?
Well, that's one reason I carried some of my most expensive pieces. Because
We don't tell her secrets, whatever stays.
So the Christmas jug, are those still available? I mean, I guess they're, the picture, I mean, that person is
passed on,
Yeah,
that did them?
Ruby and Jesse, I believe they're both gone, but I'm sure, like Google, sometimes if you just Google a Potter, just Google Jesse Metter's Christmas picture.
Somebody may be selling.
Somebody be selling.
I did
one
see some
somewhere.
on eBay, so.
Just like yesterday.
I love that, I guess that's poinsettia.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
beautiful.
Let me see again what year this was. But you know, a lot of these, 2001 was the year she did the poinsettia, so.
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
I know, I love that.
A lot of these go into, estate sales. Get bought off, and then people wanna
There you
sell
go,
them, sure,
Sheila.
don't care about them.
I'll be honest, I've seen some at different estate sales and antique stores, and I didn't know what it was.
I know.
Well,
I
I'm
will
trying
be
to, if you see any and you're not interested,
I will.
I'll be on
and it's a
that.
reasonable price, buy it,
My
I'll pay you for it.
husband goes to auction every weekend, so.
Oh, really? Where?
Barnesville.
We went to one at Union Point.
Mhm. All right, girls, let me close up, 'cause we gotta go home.
I know, right, I know, I started putting the names in my phone.
I got my phone right now,
Mhm.
always look at them,
Mhm.
but don't react.
Right, yeah.
Just to wrap up, a little
Mhm.
feeling about your warmth and, joy this afternoon and just being sisters. The editor of the 1958 Kiowa expressed it succinctly and well when she said, "This is not just a place on the map, a group of buildings, a college. It's a certain feeling even when you're presenting your folk art. A certain attitude, just joy and laughter. A certain manner of knowing how to live. And this TIFF lives on in the heart of each girl who has, in depth, sojourned here, uniting her with those who have gone before and all who will come after. The girls possessing the true TIFF spirit, age, distance, position, matter not. Quality stands as the supreme manifestation evident in each life of the TIFF girl." Psalms 144:12. That our Monroe Female College, that our Bessie Tift College, that our Tift College daughters may be as cornerstones, polished after the similitude of a palace. Cornerstones were pillars, strong, unbreakable, admired for their abilities, these daughters, which affirm their achievements in society. And to finish up, I did to find my spirit of TIFT. It's a spirit, a true spirit, and it will forever live in the hearts of those who love it. Thank you, baby.